Let's find out what you have to say, Kirsty.
First we have Grace on line 1.
Grace, good morning.
Good morning, Matthew. Morning, everyone.
Morning. So, difficult to sort of go into any depth about what the interview's about, other than the fact we know he cried and we know it's going to be on ITV this Saturday.
Well, it was a genuine emotion, that's for sure, because I remember most people do when he lost his daughter.
Yeah, you would.
It will not in any way influence the way I intend to vote. It won't influence me one way or the other how I vote.
OK. Do you think it's the right thing for him to do?
I'm not sure. I think he must have had an idea of what questions they were going to ask him beforehand.
Yeah.
And I think one of the panel said, you know, he could have said, well, you know, that subject's off limits. He could have said, there's nothing wrong in what he did. It was quite genuine. But, I mean, he's not the only politician. David Cameron, didn't he not lose one of his...
Yes, indeed. Yes,
family?
indeed.
And there's not been the same capital made
Well,
out of
if I remember right, Grace, Cameron invited the TV cameras into his home. Where an ordinary family situation before his son died. And if I remember right, Gordon Brown didn't think this was a very smart idea, that you shouldn't bring the cameras into the family home. There's a line between family life and political life. Yeah. And now, having gone through all of that, here we are, a couple of years down the line, and Gordon Brown is putting his family into the spotlight, albeit in a kind of obtuse way. But it is, nevertheless, it is a massive personal tragedy. Of that, I do not dispute. I just don't like the timing. If you talked about it a year ago, 2 years ago, it wouldn't be an issue for me. And if you spoke about it one day after the general election, it wouldn't be an issue for me. It's just the timing.
That's very true. The trouble is, some things it must be have still been very raw in his mind to talk about even. Perhaps it wasn't the right time previously to talk about it. But it is rather uncanny how close the election it is.
It is, isn't it, Grace? Thank you for the call.
We have Sudash on line 3.
Sudash, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, is it the right time? Do you think he's playing for sympathy?
I think this subject is very, very difficult to discuss in this open forum. My child died 18 years ago, and I still get very, very emotional about it. But what I find difficult to understand in this debate is the premise of your question. I think you assume that politicians must be something other than who we are. And if a politician is this alien thing, I don't think we should have people like that running our country. I think it's important to recognise that these people are human beings.
Yeah,
whether vote for them or not.
I absolutely agree. And as I said to the previous caller, for me, there is an issue of timing here which cannot be ignored politically. That he hasn't spoken about Jennifer in the preceding 8 years, and he has chosen not to speak about her after the general election. The time that he has chosen to open himself up as a human being, to share his grief, is a few weeks before a general election.
I think opportunities come when they come.
Sudash, Gordon Brown is welcome on this show anytime. He chooses not to appear. OK? He can come on this show and talk about his child whenever he wants to. There are opportunities for the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister can walk onto any television programme he wants to. OK? So it is ridiculous to say this is an opportunity that has just presented itself to him. It is an opportunity he has chosen.
I think that's right. I think he has chosen this moment to speak because he is an intelligent person, but it requires other people to cooperate in that. But the other aspect of this is, under no circumstance would I vote for anybody because they had a horrible thing happen to them in their past.
No.
And I don't think anybody else would.
Well, you see, you say that, but I would suggest that if you look at American Idol, X Factor and Britain's Got Talent, there's plenty of evidence to suggest a good sob story is worth a few votes.
But I think those are different kind of things to a political campaign.
You're right. They get more votes for starters. That's one of the issues.
I think that shows something about it. The fact that fewer people vote in political debates and political elections shows that people think very differently about these things than they regard X Factor. It isn't something that they do on the spur of the moment. People think, and I know it's not fashionable to say this, but I think people have a different attitude to elections. And I feel very sympathetic towards David Cameron and his family life, but that wouldn't make me vote for him. No. And I would not vote for Gordon for the same reason.
OK, well said, Sudash. Thank you very much. Well argued, well argued. And let's have one more for the break.
Okay, we have Michelle on line 2.
Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, Matthew.
So what do you think of this decision? Do you suspect the timing, or rather is the timing suspect?
It's very, very well staged at the end of the day, Matthew. Alistair Campbell has just taken over the managing of Gordon Brown's campaign. He's obviously decided with Gordon to give him a completely different character and put him in a different light to the British public. Piers Morgan is a very good friend of theirs. That's why they've decided to use Piers Morgan for this particular staging campaign. And you can bet Alistair Campbell and Piers Morgan have decided very, very carefully on the exact questions and have practiced with Gordon Brown the exact answers. And that's why this has been put forward as a staging campaign to give Gordon Brown a different
Now, Michelle, you see,
persona.
I'll be honest, I agree with every word you've said. Do you think it'll work, though? Will it win one extra vote?
Well, at the end of the day, from some of the calls you've had, which I'm very, very surprised at, I think some of the British public are fairly gullible because, you know, they like a sob story, and I think some people do like seeing a different side of Gordon Brown. I mean, we had Alistair Campbell crying on the Andrew Marr show.
I know. And if you're not careful, I'm going to set off again properly.
They should be crying about their record. They should be crying about.
OK, I'm genuinely surprised by how many of you clearly think there's nothing wrong with it, or that Gordon Brown... Yeah, that's just... No, yeah, I'm with Michelle, 100%.